morning, everybody. My name is Morgan Thompson. I am the LMS teacher specialist with the Office of Instructional Technology. Joining me as my co-host, we have the amazing Darren Towers, our LMS specialist. Darren, that's a very well-deserved introduction, by the way. You are awesome.
Thanks.
All right, so if anybody is joining us just now, make sure you have enrolled in our Brightspace PD course. And if I could just see some reactions with the thumbs up. Has anybody gotten in? Okay, good. All right. So at this point, I am going to start my 5-minute timer. During that time, I would like you to be in the discussions tool, answering our warm-up discussion. Why is it important to provide student opportunities for online discussions? So thinking back to how Dania and Natalie shared how important it is to set intentions for a session, I want this to be specific to you and your role and your students. There's no right or wrong answer here. Just why is it important to provide students opportunities for online discussions? Again, if anybody is not able to access that Brightspace PD course, let us know. But once you're in, we are going into the discussions tool. Good morning, Nicole. Thanks for joining. We have directions on the screen there. If you could enroll in our Brightspace PD course, that link to that course is also pinned in the chat. Once you're in, we are responding to our first warm-up discussion. Why is it important to provide students opportunities for online discussions? I think we have quite a few responses there already. Okay, if you are finished early, go ahead and start reading some of the other participant responses and notice that there is an option to rate their post. You'll see stars once you are in their response, and feel free to rate it if it's something you connected with, agreed with. Okay, we'll give it about 1 more minute to respond in the discussion, and then I would love to hear from somebody that's willing to come off mute and share their response with the group as well. So we'll do that in about 1 minute. All right. It looks like most of you have had the opportunity to respond to the warm up. Is anybody particularly interested in sharing their response? Why is it important to provide students opportunities for online discussion? There were some really good responses, so I'm excited to hear what you think. I taught middle
I
school. I have
just
really
talked
good wait
about,
time.
oh, sorry. I just talked about like student voice and like how, particularly with students with like anxiety or like English language learners, we have a lot at our school, just giving them a different, method or avenue to participate in class.
I also replied to that, what Alex just said, students with disabilities sometimes have, difficulties with verbal expression. So giving them another way.
And I like how Alex mentioned that there's all those online software tools you can take, you can use as well for spelling and for reading.
Thank you. Thank you all for sharing. Thank you, Nina, Leslie, and Alex. Did you have one more comment? I saw your hand pop up.
No, I meant the emoji. Sorry.
Okay. All right. So to capture what was said both in the online discussion as well as briefly in our face-to-face piece here was that online discussions are great at promoting student voice and doing that in a way that is equitable and accessible. So thinking about all the learners that will be in your classroom, the way that they engage with digital material can vary from student to student. So thank you all for covering that. And then, like Darren said in the chat, it is low risk. Tying that all together, again, going back to our intention setting for today, I just added this piece here. I pulled an example from, I think it's probably from Twitter, but looking at that college discussion board, how many of you have honestly engaged with a discussion that looks like what's on your screen? Jim, 2 + 2 = 4. Me, wow, Jim, I totally agree. I like how you added the 2's together and got 4. Very insightful. I feel like, yeah, based on the reactions we're getting, you feel my pain. But online discussions really do not have to be those lower level thinking. And in fact, according to the Maryland Digital Learning Standards, to be a digital citizen, students engage in positive interactions, online social interactions. So as teachers, we all understand the value of face-to-face discussions for fostering that student discourse. But by including options for online discussions, we're also providing them important experiences necessary to be college and career ready. Knowing that students will one day be in a college setting where they're asked to participate in college discussion boards like this, it's important that they have context in the activities that they are completing. We're really looking for those rich, higher level thinking discussion boards. And that's what I'm hoping you take away from today's session. So since you are in our Brightspace PD course, I do also have a little bit more on the ISTE standards and the Maryland Digital Learning Standards if you're looking for the connection to why these online discussions are so important. So those are there for you to refer back to in this course. Okay, navigating to my agenda. Let's see, here we go. All right, so you will have access to our agenda as well. And here you will find a snapshot of everything we are going to cover today. So if you're looking at our learning activities, we do have these drop downs for the material that we'll cover, the highlights, as well as resources that you are able to refer back to later. While I will be demoing the process for creating and assessing, so thinking of our agenda here, we're going to be demoing creating discussions and assessing discussions. I'm really going to be mindful of our time together with my hope of spending a good chunk of the time showcasing how teachers in Anne Arundel County Public Schools have used discussions with those sound curriculum aligned examples. Again, promoting that student voice and the equitable and accessible examples. Last kind of item for housekeeping before I get into that demo is hopefully you saw in our discussions tool, there was also a parking lot. So right underneath our warm-up, you should have seen a parking lot discussion. Feel free to use that if you have questions that come up along the way, or the chat as well. Okay. So I'm going to get into my discussions tool. Sorry, I way zoomed in so we could see the warm-up. And now I can adjust that a little bit. Okay, I'm going to jump into my discussions tool. And before I dive into actually creating a discussion, I just want to explain the structure of the discussions tool if you're not familiar with it, because that does play a big part in navigation and overall organization for your students. So you want to think about the layers of a discussion before just getting into creating. Using our PD course as an example, you'll see that discussions really have 3 layers, starting with your forum. So in our example, that is our spring eCoach day is our forum. Next, we have our topics. So our warm-up, online discussions, and our parking lot. Those are example of topics. The topics are housed within our forum. And then last but not least, the threads. Those are your individual responses. So you can also think of discussions as a filing cabinet. I've heard this as a good reference, where the forums are the cabinet drawers of your filing cabinet. The topics are the file folders inside that drawer, and your threads are like your pieces of paper within that file. So really thinking of that layering system. And a quick overview of the tabs within our discussions tool. When you get into the discussions tool, you do land on your discussions list where you see your forums and your threads. You do also have the option here, if you're really utilizing these discussions and it's a lot to see on your screen, you have the option there to collapse. And it provides a quick summary of what's inside each forum. Next, getting into our subscriptions. That will show what discussions you are subscribed to receive notifications for in your course. So you'll see the subscribe option as you're looking at your forums, your threads, your topics. I do recommend subscribing to get the little notification in your alerts for an update if a student has responded. After subscriptions, we have our group and section restrictions. You can restrict forums and topics to sections if you have merged courses or if you want to get creative with differentiation and, or even things like group work. This tab could be helpful. And you'll see that some of these settings repeat themselves when you're working directly within the topic. There's a drop down to edit that, and then also within this tab as well. Alex in chat, I can see this being good for homework. Are students able to access this? I do believe so, Darren, correct me if I'm wrong, but they should be able to access the discussions through the Pulse app.
Yeah, the whole platform is available through Pulse.
And then I will tease out a little bit just because Alex made me think of that. Coming soon, one of the exciting updates we have coming to Brightspace within the next month is going to be actually an update to that learner experience, what they see, as well as teachers. It's going to be an inline experience. So if you're posting your discussion to content, students will be able to interact with that discussion directly in content. They won't have to navigate out to that tool. Good little segue. Thanks, Alex. Last but not least, the tabs on our discussions tool, statistics. This is really an overall view of the discussions tool in its entirety. You will also be able to see statistics either at the forum or the topic level. So this is here if you're looking at your discussions list as a whole, but I personally like to see a more narrow view. So I tend to use that through my topic or my forum level. And there's some good information there, but we'll get into that when we talk about assessing. Okay, I'm going to pause for a second and just see if there are any questions before I get into creating?
I missed what was said about posting the discussion and content. Is that something you're going to show us later?
So there will actually be an update. I can share that information with you at the end. It's really coming within the next month, where
Okay.
students will be able to access discussions within content. So as the teacher, you can, through add existing, you can post your discussion within content. It's just when students interact with it, it currently takes them into this discussions tool. It's just going to be a fun, actually really exciting update to how students interact within that content portion.
Okay,
Less
thanks.
navigating. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get into creation. I am back on my discussions list tab, and I'm going to select this bold blue button here for new. And I am going to start with a new forum. If I already had a forum ready to go that I knew I wanted to house a topic within, I could go straight into topic, but I'm going to show you from the beginning. There really is not a whole lot to do in terms of setting up your new forum. I do need to give it a title. And be mindful, again, this is what you want to house other topics in. So it's okay to be a little bit more broad with your forum title. So I personally taught middle school math. I would have loved to use this with model lessons, capturing the reflections ongoing from lesson to lesson. I can give it a description. Again, being pretty broad at the forum level. So for my forum here, I'm just going to have students reflect on their learning for each model lesson. You will also see that under title, you can create a new topic within the forum using that same title. That's not typically a setting that I use, but it is available there if you would like that. Below our description, we have some options here allowing anonymous posts, pretty standard discussion settings if you've participated in one yourself. Users must start a thread before they can read and reply to other threads in each topic. And we'll get into these options a little bit further. I don't typically select these at the forum level. I like to leave my forum open and then my topics. That's where I like to pick and choose these settings based on the activity that I'm doing. So I'm going to leave these unchecked for now. I will call out the last box there for display forum descriptions in a topic. This one is helpful if you are considering using discussions for group works, where each group would be assigned a topic, and you don't want to have to repeat your directions in each individual topic. You can build out your directions in that forum one time and apply that to all of your group topics at once. So that is my favorite forum setting, again, if you're using group work. So, like I said, not a whole lot to do for the forum setup. I am going to select save and add topic. I know our brain likes to go to that blue button, but that's if you're not ready to set up a topic. I want to get my first topic ready for students to use. So I am selecting the gray box next to it, save and add topic. Okay, so similar to our assignments, if you're familiar with using those Brightspace assignments, Brightspace Discussions has that same look and feel with a little bit of unique settings to discussions. So I do need to give it a title. Underneath my topic title, you'll see the option for grade out of. And you may be used to kind of ignoring this setting if you're not using the Brightspace gradebook, but this is important to use if you want to assess the discussion. So where it says ungraded, I am going to put in a point value. And next to it on the right-hand side, you have the option to switch from in gradebook to not in gradebook. But having that score there opens the doors to be able to provide feedback and to see that narrow student view of all of individual student contributions. I'm a big fan of student feedback, so I would always use that assess option, but depending on how you're using it, this will be unique to you. Okay. Next, under my grade out of, I have my description. And this is where you can really get creative. I am a big fan of the Brightspace editor. I'm a big fan of including video when you can. You can make this discussion topic as enhanced or as bare bones as you want it to be. So just thinking about some of the features that are common in our Brightspace editor, we can get to a video note through our insert stuff. So that's absolutely something you could use to draw your students into the topic. Or if you wanted to keep this pretty basic, you could just enter your directions for the student. But I would really encourage you to use this space to think about what tools you might want your students to take advantage of. If you want them to, say, insert an image to capture a picture of their learning, which would make sense based on how I'm using it here in this lesson, those are things that you can build out. You can explain to them where to find, insert images. They will also have access to the Brightspace editor when they are responding. And luckily, you can always go back in. If you're like, oh, I forgot I wanted to add this in my directions, you can always go back and edit your topic directions at another time. So as enhanced as you want, or as bare bones. You saw in my warm-up earlier, I just used text. Always a good option as well. Okay, coming over to the right-hand side, you do have availability dates and conditions. That's similar with Brightspace across the board. But unique to discussions, I want to take a little bit of time to look at posting completion, where some of these are going to be familiar based on what you saw at the forum level. And I want you to pay attention to how these options are worded. So for example, the second bullet, instead of default participation, when you're ready to customize a little bit, allow learners to hide their name from other learners. So that does not mean that you as the teacher cannot see who is posting. And it doesn't mean that they have to hide their names. When students actually see a discussion with this example checked, they have to, on their end, in their response, select that they would like to hide their name. So a lot of you mentioned anxiety earlier. That may be a great use case for this if you're looking at an open dialogue. However, you as the teacher will see that you have the option to show who authored the post. So it will never be anonymous to you. And again, students don't have to hide their name. It's just giving them the option there. Next, underneath that, we have learners must start a thread before they can view or reply other threads. This I had selected for our warm-up discussion. And that's really important to give students an opportunity to reflect on their own prior to reading other responses, keeping that response genuine to them before engaging with others. And the last option underneath of that, we have posts must be approved before they are displayed in the topic. So this initiates what we would call a moderated post. So you as the teacher would get a notification that you have a post to review from your discussions list, which you'll see in a minute when I get back there. You'll see there are icons. So I'm going to go ahead and select this for now, just so you can see what that looks like in your discussion list. There are little indicators on your discussion list. So if you're like, I don't remember how I have my settings, you'll see those icons. It'll be a good reminder to you on what criteria you set for each topic. Okay, and then under evaluation and feedback, this is one of my favorite parts about the discussion because it builds off of things that students love to do. Students love to rate things. They love to like things. This gives them that added layer of interaction. So first, under evaluation and feedback, we have rubrics. Great to use. But I actually want to focus on this evaluate post option here. The first option, allow evaluation of individual posts. Again, that's really if you're deeply grading and assessing these discussions for student contributions, you could individually score each student contribution within an overall topic. Beneath that, allow learners to rate posts. This is my favorite part of a discussion. In our warm-up topic, you had the option to use a 5-star rating. Each individual can assign their own 5-star rating to a post. So you begin to see that average. If I click that drop down underneath 5-star rating, we have upvote, downvote. So you get a plus and a minus, and you can, again, click the plus if you want to upvote, minus if you want to downvote, and that just keeps a count of the numbers. So showing, making connections. If you're agreeing strongly to a statement, you can use that upvote, downvote. And beneath that, we have upvote only. And that may be a little bit safer. I'm thinking of my middle school friends. Maybe we don't include the option to downvote. Maybe we keep it, good vibes, upvoting only. You don't have to upvote, but you can. And I will leave that on there. So I do have visibility at the bottom, so you can toggle it off if you are not ready to make it visible to your students. Visible, or again, you have those availability dates if you wanted to set this ahead of time. Okay, going to save and close. Okay, so I mentioned as I was setting up my discussions that we have little icons that are good reminders for what settings we have applied to our discussions. So I'm going to scroll past my spring eCoach Day forum. I'm going to go down into my Q3 model lessons. Beneath the title of my topic, I have includes assessment. So that shows that I have included that grade out of option. So I will be able to provide individual student feedback. And then I also have the icon, kind of like your warning, your yield, that there's that, moderated option. So if a student posts a thread that needs to be moderated or approved, you will also see that same exact symbol show up under post. So you'll get that icon there as well, showing that you have a post you need to approve before it is visible to the class. Okay. All right. I'm going to pause there for a second and see if there's any questions on discussion creation before I move towards assessment.
I have a question.
Sure.
Would you possibly be able to show us what it looks like on your end for the assessment piece?
Mhm.
So like if I went in and posted something under the combining like terms,
Mhm.
I just want to see what it looks like from the teacher point of view.
Sure. So do you want to see, I can go into this one and then I'll be getting into assessment in a second. From the teacher view, really just looks like the student, but you do have additional options, from the teacher view. Anywhere you see that down arrow, you're really going to have more options there as the teacher. So if you want to edit, you're going to be able to use that drop down, and that's from that discussion list as well. You'll see the drop down there. That's where you can get into assessing your topic, deleting if you needed to. So you have a lot of customization options there. And then that discussion list on the left-hand side, we have that bar there. Again, that's consistent for the teacher and the student. One thing that may be helpful, I really like to use the filter as well. You can filter by things that you haven't read. You can filter flagged. And there are also ways I mentioned earlier where you can use discussions for groups. So if you were using the groups or the sections, you could also filter by that as well. If you wanted to focus on just a single group assignment, you could see that there. Nicole in the chat, are there options to record the questions for students to hear or an option for them to record? Yes, absolutely. So within any post, so if I went into edit this topic, if I wanted to provide verbal directions as the teacher, I would do that with my Brightspace editor. So using my insert stuff, and this would be true of a student responding as well. They would respond the same exact way as I'm about to demo. They would see that insert stuff. If you had pre-recorded a video using your media library, you could pull it in here. Or if you are creating this recording on the fly, you would choose the one just above it. That's likely what your students would be using, adding audio to a discussion post. It's that add video note. Yep, and then you'll see there I have all those recording features. I can have my camera on. I can do audio only. This is really a great way to incorporate speaking into your practice as well. Discussions don't have to just be writing. Academic language, practicing speaking, that's extremely important as well. Good questions. Thank you for that. Okay, so moving on to discussions, I'm actually going to use your responses from our warm-up question. Jillian mentioned also what does the assessment look like as a teacher? And I mentioned earlier about those statistics. You could go to that statistics tab at the top. I personally like that more narrow view. And I did mention earlier, anywhere you see that little down arrow, you have additional options. You could view statistics from the forum level if you're gauging more long-term, or you could look at individual topics as well. So I just want to start with my statistics for my discussions. I want to see who engaged, who posted a thread, who responded, as well as looking at statistics for those ratings as well. So from my dropdown, I'm looking for view topic statistics. So you get a nice summary snapshot, total thread. So if you're looking at whole class engagement, looking at who replied, but then if you keep scrolling down, you also see it in a nice little table form. I love the table view. I like at a quick glance, I can scroll down. Janet is first here on my list. So I'm going to look at hers. She was not able to author a thread or reply. But what's also great is you can see what posts were read. So not just did they submit the required thread, but did they actually go back and read their feedback? If our whole goal is we're trying to foster that student discourse, you have to read what your peers are saying. That piece is equally important. So are they reading their feedback? And then again, the quick summary of score and rating. So I'm going to scroll down a little bit. Some of these participants may have been in another PD. So here we go. We have Leslie here. I was able to see that she authored the post. She read 7, including her own, and she did get a 5-star rating on her post from her peers. And you do get that little indicator below that as well of how many students rated her. So if I scroll down to Amy, I can see 3 people rated Amy's post. Okay. So that's really a great overall view for engagement. But I mentioned earlier, you can assess these on a deeper level as well. So I'm going back to my discussions list. And because I included that grade, that score to it, from my dropdown back on my warm-up online discussions, I have the assess topic. If you leave it as ungraded, you will not see that option there. Okay, so from assess topic, I get a much more detailed view for individual students. So I see my class list. And I also really encourage you, anywhere you see these view by, especially if you have merged your courses, take a look and see what's there. You can toggle your view by section. So if you just wanted to look at one class at a time, take advantage of those view by dropdowns. Okay, I'm gonna scroll down and find where, let's see. Okay, I saw Krista was in here. So to view individual student contributions, you are clicking on their topic score. And once you're in that individual student, that topic score, this looks very, if you're familiar with grading a Brightspace assignment, this is the same look and feel. So you will see their response. So I see that Krista posted a thread. Again, I can see that she got that 5-star rating, but I can read her response. And if she had any replies, any work that Krista contributed, I would see in one place. So I don't have to go searching all over for where did Krista respond. Okay. You can also assign your score here. And in my overall feedback, you may have to poke around a little bit, but you do still have all of those same options that we saw when authoring our topic. You can still insert stuff. You can provide audio feedback to your students as well. So thinking of maybe some of our younger learners or our students who just really benefit from seeing the facial expressions on their teacher as they're providing that feedback can be powerful too. But again, we always have the option to type our feedback. You can insert an image. Kids love Bitmojis. You could throw one in there too. And I'm going to publish there. From the upper right-hand corner, you'll see I'm on user 17 of 48. You can also tab through to see your students there. You don't have to go back to your assessed topic. You can just keep rolling through your student responses.
This is only if you choose that option to assess, right?
Correct.
Okay.
But if you do assign that score, again, you have that drop down. You can choose not in gradebook if you don't want it to show up in your Brightspace gradebook. So you can still provide that feedback without having it show in the gradebook. Or if you are taking advantage of it, then leave it in your gradebook. It's great to see. Okay. So that really covers assessments. Just a quick summary, really 2 assessment options there. Statistics. Again, you can think broad. You can look at your overall discussions tool. You can look at your forum or your topic. And then using the assess topic from your dropdown. Any questions on assessment? All right, well, that was a lot of me talking, thinking again back to our amazing keynote this morning. So I thought this would be a great time to kind of transition and let you do some exploring. So under content, I am going to have you, once this loads, under our spring eCoach Day, facilitating student discourse. Let me make this visible. I want you to select Explore Curriculum Aligned Examples. So these are all examples from teachers in AACPS. These are all real examples that teachers used with students. So I want you to take 5 minutes. I just want you to explore. There's only 5. And I tried to capture a variety of grade levels, contents, just kind of take a look at what you see. And we have one more discussion for you to respond to. So explore the curriculum aligned discussion examples and respond to the exploration discussion, which is linked right there for you. Just capture your favorite example or how you may use discussions in your course.
Yeah, Emily, I was gonna exactly go there. So I think once again, this is a big obstacle because I love all these functions. Any updates on timelines or discussions? Sorry to put the big question out there.
Regarding grades, is that what you're talking about, Alex?
Yeah, Power School Brightspace.
Yeah, so Darren kind of covered that in the chat. It's not currently linked to Power School, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's not a set timeline in place right now. I will say though that the gradebook it's nice for, it does organize your grades very nicely. And with dual screen, you can kind of transfer those grades over to Power School as needed.
Yeah, I mean, I just love the standards grading in Brightspace. There's just a lot of good stuff. It's just that extra step is still a hard sell, I'll be honest, in the schools.
And Nicole, just try refreshing your page.
Yep, if you just refresh, you should see it. But if anybody, if it's still not showing up, let us know.
Yeah, I've refreshed a couple times. The only thing that's there is the authentic online test prep.
Yeah, same.
Same here.
Yep, it was an availability date. Let me fix that. Thank you, everybody. Let me just take that off. Oh, let's see. Oh, no, not PM. Come on. Okay, now try. Thank you, everybody. See, it happens to all of us. Yes, thank you, Kate.
Yep, we're in.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. I'm going to leave the timer at that 3 minutes, but if anybody needs additional time after that, we will check in. I'm going to add, I think I'll put our timer back to 2 minutes for anybody that still wanted to respond in the discussion.
So, question for the CER on that second one there, can you scroll over? Morgan? Yeah. So that was a discussion or okay.
Yep, this teacher set up the CER rating as discussion.
Okay. And then it says includes assessment. So were kids responding to each other? Okay, you must respond to two.
Yeah, and so Nancy actually had that same question. That includes assessment piece. Remember, that's what opens up your ability to add feedback. So
Okay.
Nancy, you kind of referenced manually grading. So thinking about scoring, I know, like for example, something like CER writing would be attached to a rubric. So again, you can add a rubric to a discussion if you would like to, but that assessment piece is really just is the general way to allow the teacher to assign a score or to add feedback.
And if you do connect it to the grade book, you could give everyone the same score, just a 1 for finishing. But then, like Morgan said, it gives you the opportunity to provide feedback. Sorry, I mean in bulk, like the grade book can give everybody a 1 all at the same time. So that saves you a little time there.
Just reading through some of the responses to the exploration. Definitely had some great contributions. I love the variety. A lot of teachers, focus on a different example. So I'm glad you found value in those examples. Okay, my timer is done. Just as a quick recap to bring us together, these, again, are examples that I pulled directly from teacher courses. These were all used with students, and I'm sure a lot of them are familiar strategies you may use in your classroom every day and just hadn't thought to put it to a discussion. So we saw notice and wonder, CER writing, our claim evidence reasoning. My personal favorite, this particular teacher used this in her ASL class, and she used this quite regularly. It looked as if it were maybe a warm-up or a closure every day. She personally had a video, and students were able to use their video as well to respond, modeling ASL. So that was a really cool one to see. Digital palette, this was a super engaging peer-to-peer example working on a peer critique. I really like the way that this teacher included those directions built out in her directions. So she even used the image icon to show, click image to upload your work. So this was a really great detailed teacher example. And the student engagement was fun. And then I saw another teacher using as a read aloud discussion. So thinking about any way you would build out your routine using any of these tasks, whether in a blended learning lesson or thinking about the ways you've done these, face-to-face. How can you provide students those opportunities to do those same skills in a discussion so they are getting that practice? Okay. And just checking on our time. I'm glad I'm seeing some responses in the chat. Jillian said not to brag. She just got an email with a Brightspace award. Jillian, you are providing me perfect segues here. So thank you for that. That leads me into the last item on our agenda. And I am watching the time. If my computer would cooperate with loading. Come on, content. Okay, here we go. Back into our agenda. So Jillian mentioned that she received an award. You are able to link some other Brightspace features to your discussions. They pair really well together. So in my agenda, my third drop down, how do we engage students? I've built this amazing discussion. How do I get students to interact with it? There are features both within the discussions tool that you can use to capture their attention. I'll show you my favorite built-in feature within the discussions in a second. But then there are features that you know well already, like awards, video notes we covered extensively, and replacement strings. If you've used a replacement string in your banner, you can use them in discussions as well to make your discussions a little bit more personalized. So I won't go in depth over these resources here, but definitely take time to look at them on your own. And then if you ever have a question of how do I assign an award to a discussion post, let Darren or I know. We would be happy to talk you through that. But with our last few minutes together, my favorite built-in discussion feature, I'm going to jump into a response. Thinking about how we can engage students either in group work or peer-to-peer feedback, you can tag students in a discussion. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. So if you as the teacher, let's say, assigned partners for feedback. So I am going to draft my response. I'm writing a letter, and I know that Alex is my partner. Alex is going to be providing me feedback. Within my discussion, again, this is the same view for students. If you type the @ symbol and you begin to type their name, so I'm going to tag Alex in my response. Alex will get a little notification, and then he will see that he's tagged there as well. So that's super fun. Students, I think, just inherently know how to tag people. And I do want to point out that they are only able to tag people within their class list. So if Darren weren't in my class, I couldn't tag him in here to just, wreak havoc in my discussion. Class list only. Super engaging. I just worked with a teacher at Arundel who her students loved the tagging feature for their group work. All right, looking at the time, I will take questions. I know we will be getting ready to put the attendance and evaluation in the chat. I will hang around and hope you have a great lunch. Thank you all so much for attending our discussion session. I hope you took away either a curriculum aligned example on how you could incorporate discussions or just a way to make it fun for your students. Thanks so much, everybody. Don't forget that attendance link in the chat. Darren has it pinned. Jillian, thank you for providing all of the segues in my session.
I'm just good like that. I had a quick question. I don't know what kind of answer you guys will be able to give me, but I've had a lot of teachers when I've done PD on Brightspace ask about whether or not it's going to be around at least one more year, or like they kind of want to know. And I'm not going to say why they want to know, but they want to know if it's going to be around still.
Sure. So we do have a 5-year contract with Brightspace. So we do have one more year in that 5-year contract. And then just that's part of a typical part of, such a high cost item. It is natural to evaluate from there. But we do have another year in our contract.
So is the county going to try to re-up after?
That part, that's above. Yeah, I'm not sure
That's
about
$1
that
million
one.
question.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
I mean, the feedback I get, I think, and from what I've seen doing PD